Hello everyone, in this video we are going to discuss 3 critical diagrams in how to attack the opponent's king. Today's topic is how to attack with the pieces. All the 3 diagrams are very interesting, and after watching this video your knowledge in particularly middle game is simply going to be increased by 100%. So I don't want to waste any further time, so let's quickly jump into the video. So here we have the first diagram on our board. This time we are playing with the white pieces, and I want all of you guys to pause the video and try to think how are you going to continue the position if you are playing with the white pieces. Okay, so what's happening in the position? Let's take an overview. First of all, the bishop is looking at the king. The knight is very well placed looking at the king side. The rooks are very well placed, open file, and the queen is also very mobile. Queen h4 can be an idea, maybe queen e2 followed by queen g4. There are many ideas, or even queen g3 can be an idea. So white is completely looking at the king side, whereas black's 2 bishop is looking at the king side. But I don't think much is happening on the king side because our pieces are very well protecting the king as well. So there is no going to be issue of black's attack. So how are we going to continue the position is the question. So if you found the move, queen to h4, that's brilliant. Basically bringing up the most powerful piece into the game, that's the main idea. Queen to h4. I think many of you guys must have thought of moves like queen e2. Maybe the idea is to play queen g4, trying to mate. Guys, you can play it, but it's a slow idea. The best and the fastest way to win is to play the move queen h4. What's the idea? After queen h4, I'm simply attacking the pawn on h7. And how are you going to react to it? After queen h4, the only thing I think black is having is to play the move h6. That's the only thing in order to avoid checkmate. So after h6, how are you going to continue the game is the question. So you can pause the video if you haven't solved it yet. So yeah, here we basically sacrifice the knight. That's simple. Pawn takes, and here no need to complicate things, but just simply capture the pawn with the queen. And here the mate is kind of unavoidable. Queen h8 is coming up. You can't stop it really. Queen h7, maybe rook f7. The game is over. You can't really stop it. It's a force mate. So that's how you can play this particular position. The main motive is to bring every piece into the game and then start to think of some sacrifices that can work out, like in such positions. Definitely, whenever you are having all your pieces into the game, there are definitely some sacrifices that can simply blow away the game, and you can simply win the game on the spot. So that was the first motive of this first diagram. So now let's move on to the second diagram. Okay, so we have the second diagram on our board. This time we are playing the black pieces, and this particular diagram I simply loved it. And you guys are also going to simply love it after I tell you the explanation. So for now, try to pause the video and try to think how are you going to continue the position if you are playing with the black pieces. Okay, so here with the black pieces, if you found out the move knight to e4, that's extremely right. Because for now, white is simply eyeing on the pawn on f5, and we are currently protecting the pawn only once. So white's idea is definitely capture the pawn on f5, and white's idea could be to play on the queen side via a3 b4, trying to push his minority attack on the queen side. So here, if you found the move knight e4, it's extremely right. We are basically cementing our knight to e4. Now, what's the idea? For example, if bishop tries to capture the knight after pawn takes, both the bishops are looking at the king side. Rook f6, rook h6, queen h4, and the game is over. And if you can't really capture with the knight because after pawn takes, you lose a piece. So it doesn't really work that way. After knight e4, white plays the move bishop b2, trying to finish his development. And after bishop b2, we play the move knight to d7. I'm pretty sure that many of you guys think of moves like g5, trying to play on the king side, trying to push the pawn, trying to play on the stronger side of the board. Definitely you can push the pawn, but I won't really advise that because here white can play moves like knight e5. After takes, white is pretty happy to sack the pawn in order to open up his bishop. At the same time, definitely you are playing on the king side, the stronger side of the board, but you are creating weaknesses of your own, so it's not advisable. So at the place of g5, trying to first develop your pieces. Then definitely once you finished your development, then definitely ideas like g5 is the best. After knight d7, white plays a3. That's the only plan I can see from the white side, trying to push his queen side pawns, trying to create some weaknesses. After e3, we play rook to f6. Now what's the idea? Trying to swing the rook to h6 or g6, b4, and here rook to h6. And now rook h6 is already very interesting. Bishop and the rook is eyeing on the h2 pawn, and here black's idea is already to play the move knight to g5. You can't really capture it because bishop into h2 is already a very strong move. So here, white must play g3. If we try to play something else like maybe h3, we can already start to think moves like g5, trying to play g4, because now you have to capture it, and now bishop h2 can be very deadly. So g3, and after g3, trying to restrict the bishop on d6, which makes a lot of sense. After g3, we play the move knight to f6, bringing another piece into the game. White plays knight to d1, and after knight d1, we play the move knight to g4. That's the idea, bringing all the pieces into the game, into the attack. Try to attack with the pieces. That's the topic for today. Knight g4, bringing another piece. h4. Now what's the idea basically in this position? After knight g4, black's idea is pretty simple. Now black wants to play the move knight to g5. And the idea is to simply distract the knight, try to capture on h2, and you can already see some good ideas from the black side. So white must push the pawn to h4, trying to, in order to not get some sacrifice on h2. But after h4, how can we continue the game is the question. We play bishop to d7, again developing the bishop. After bishop d7, white plays queen to e2, trying to put pieces into the king side. And after king e2 is the question, how can you try to continue the position if you're playing with the black pieces? Try to pause the video and try to think. Okay, so there are already many ways to win the game. Many of you think bishop into g3 can work, pawn takes, knight takes. Definitely, it's also a good idea. Many of you think g5 can be a good idea. Definitely, I won't deny it. g5 looks extremely strong. If pawn takes rook h3 can be an idea. Even you can capture the pawn. It's completely winning. But playing with the pieces, rook f8, again bringing the pieces into the game. Rook to c1, and now playing bishop to e8. Finally bishop e8, and now what's the idea? I'm pretty sure everyone knows this. Bishop h5. Bishop h5. And here you can already sense how black has got all his pieces into the game, into the action, and now black is fully fledged, prepared to simply sacrifice the pieces. After bishop h5, white takes the pawn, and here we play the move knight h2. Brilliant move. I was going to tell you to pause the video and try to think, but knight h2, simply brilliant move. The point here is you can't capture with the knight because you lose the queen. It's a double attack. You must capture the knight. That's the only option. After king into h2, how are we going to finish the game? Bishop into f3, capturing the knight, hitting the queen. Queen takes, and now come queen into h4, check. You can't capture the queen because the pawn is pinned up. You must move the king, and now queen h2 is simply game over. You can't do anything. That's how you can simply checkmate the opponent's king. How? Can you even imagine at the first glance that this position is going to be turned out to this particular position? It's simply brilliant. You develop your pieces. That's the first thing you must do. Bring all your pieces into the game one by one. Knight g4, bishop d7, rook f8, bishop e8, bishop h5, and then simply sack off. That's it. That's how you must play this particular position. Try to attack with the pieces. So now let's move on to the final position of the day, the third diagram. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, so we have the third diagram on our board. And it looks like the board is pretty empty. So how are we going to attack with the pieces? So in this diagram, we are not going to talk about how to attack with the pieces, but talk a bit deeper in the chessboard. So basically talking about the position. Like for example, here definitely white is having more space in the center because of the strong e5 pawn. So you must always remember the advantage of having more space in either side of the board. What are the advantages of having the more space? Basically, having the pawn on e5 in this particular position gives white more privileges to have more space on the king side, as the pawn is on e5. Compared to the black position, the pawn is on e6, so black is having only very limited space to play on these 3 files, that's it. Whereas white is having more space. So whenever you are having more space, you are having more mobility, you are having more maneuvers, like bringing your queen, bringing your pieces. If you are playing with the black pieces, then your all pieces would be stuffed up. No space to go anywhere. But if you are playing with the white pieces, you are having more space to put your pieces in many different options. You're having more options, more flexibility, more chances to attack. So whenever you are having more space, that's the sign of having more flexibility so that you can get all your pieces into the game because you're having more space, and one by one you can start attacking the opponent king. That's how you do it. That's the advantage of having this strong pawn on e5. So that's it for today. This was the third diagram, a very interesting one. Advantage of having the advantage of having more space in the center, more space on any side of the board. Definitely you are having more flexibility, more ideas, more options to maneuver out your pieces. That's it. So I hope that this video might have helped you to improve your knowledge. If it did, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. It is free for you, but it helps us to motivate to make videos like this. So there are many more topics remaining, so I don't want to waste any further time. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.